You're listening to the Lou Stokes podcast, real and inspiring conversations with individuals from all over the world who have become their own icon. Be inspired to take action and step into your best stylish life. Hello and welcome to the Lou Stokes podcast. On today's episode, I am super excited to have Maike Gabriela with me. She is a deconditioning expert and a human design reader. Welcome, Maike. How are you?
Hello, Lou. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you for joining me. I'm super excited to dive into our conversation. So please tell us a little bit more about you. I know you're based in Barcelona. You're a human design reader, deconditioning expert. So just give us a little bit more info.
Yeah, so I'm based actually between Switzerland and Barcelona. My company is in Switzerland, so I come here often because this is where I grew up, and obviously the weather. But yeah, so I became a human design reader, certified like beginning of 2020, literally 2 weeks before the pandemic hit, and it's been an amazing, gratifying journey. And deconditioning expert is really just understanding the process that we grow up with certain beliefs and a certain worldview that keeps us from showing up who we came to be authentically in this lifetime. So my expertise is really into digging into all these like shoulds and musts and I need tos to free ourselves to really be able to connect to who we are and express that and therefore be able to fulfill our purpose, also energetically speaking.
Amazing. I love it. I follow you on Instagram, so I, love all your tips. So maybe some of our listeners might not even know what human design is. So I'd love you to just give us a little bit of an introduction to human design.
So the way that I describe human design is that it's the science of our aura. So we all have an energetic body that is around 2 arms lengths, 3 meters around us. And when we think about it, everything in our life is matter, meaning everything in our life has energy. The moment that we start understanding our own energetic body is when we can start what I call like playing around with the universe, because we understand why there's resistance and how we can move into flow, right? So nowadays we live in a society where we're so like, everything has its good and its bad side, but we have so much information at our fingertips that we can become an expert in anything that we're really interested in. We can Google and we can learn, and there's so much free value everywhere. But the one thing that I feel is still missing is the understanding of the energetics. So in my own experience, I've tried so many businesses. What are you? You're a 3-5, you said?
Yes, I'm a 3-5 emotional generator.
Yeah, so I'm a 3-5 spinning projector. We'll explain later what that means. But 3-5 is like, it's the way that you learn, right? So like the 3-5 has like an intense learning curve. It's all about like trial and error. So I tried so many things in my life and I didn't understand why isn't it working? Why am I doing everything that I'm supposed to do? Why am I working like 14, 16 hours a day, writing 250 emails, but my business is still not working? Like, why is everything so hard? Why can't I keep up with like the demands of society and all these things? So this is where human design really helped me to understand that there's this key piece missing, which is the energetics of things. So you can be like paying a bunch of money to do like a master's in, or like whatever, MBA, or like, whatever you're studying. I always see like, maybe this workshop has like a Facebook page and people are like, oh, cold calls don't work for me. Oh, this doesn't feel right. And I'm like, yeah, it's probably because it's energetically not aligned, right? So we have this belief. I mean, I've been through, I don't know, 1 trillion diets in my life, right? So I always, see these people and they're like, if you eat like me and you do exactly my exercise program, you will have my body. I don't know if you've ever been on a diet, but this has never happened to me.
No.
And it's the same with success and businesses where people are like, look, I'm making this amount of money in my first year of business. If you follow exactly my strategies, the same thing will happen to you. Unfortunately, or fortunately, we all have our own unique path. So this idea that if I do exactly what you did, my life is going to look like yours is just something that doesn't fit to the individualistic nature that we are as humans.
Yeah.
And that is where human design has been such a gift for my life. And I think this is the reason why I also share it now with other people, because really my life changed 360 degrees. I mean, it will be back at the same spot, but we get what I'm trying to say, right?
Yes,
so
exactly.
My life really, my life changed, and like for the better in such an incredible way, thanks to understanding my design, and not only understanding, but living it out. That I think it's just like a fantastic tool for everybody to understand yourself better, especially if you're feeling that things aren't going the way that you think they should be going.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when I found out my design, I was like, oh, 3-5, trial and error. And then I was like, emotional generator. And I was like, ah. And it kind of like, yeah, I was just like, oh, I was a bit in shock. And do you come across that with your clients, that people are kind of like, oh, I don't like my design, like, or that's not me? Do you find that resistance comes up?
I have to say, I think the people with the highest resistance are generators. but you know,
Good to know.
I think there's usually most people are like, wow, how do you know this about me? We literally just met and you're describing me. And for me also, it's like, it's the funnest thing ever, because I'm like, I have no idea who you are, but I know so well who you are. And I love that. And it's fascinating just to get to meet so many people. And like the first reaction mostly is one of really connecting. I have it with people that I do readings for. I don't have that thing of like, oh no, I don't connect to it. It is mostly people who maybe have read something somewhere else that, you know, when I started to get into human design, which is like nearly 5 years ago now, there really wasn't that much information. And it has had this incredible boom. And there's so much information now out there, but it can be really conflicting. So I really recommend, like, even I follow like 2 accounts, because I mean, maybe because it's also my business and I want to stay clear to, like, you know, channel my own stuff. But I think for everybody, it's like really important. I mean, not important, but I recommend to find like 2-3 sources that you feel like that they're bringing like something positive into your life, that like things are explained in a way that are clear, that are easy for you to understand, because there's so much information out there. Like sometimes even I like, you know, maybe YouTube finds me on the algorithm and like presents me human design video. I'm like, are you understanding yourself what you're saying? Because the language can be so like archaic or like complicated, or wants to go really deep and make it complex, when the only way that we can help people is making it easy to understand and digestible. And I think like that's maybe what I can bring to the table, that I use this human design information and make it like appealing and interesting and sexy and fun, you know, because 80% of my clients are like, oh yeah, like I read about human design 2-3 years ago, but it looked so ugly. It just didn't like, you know, it didn't interest me. And I really think that bringing in this like modern touch, like I use Jennifer Lopez as an example, or like, you know, whatever, Kim Kardashian. And for me, there's like the Kanye West channel. So I like use all these things that help me understand things better, that are relatable, and that I feel like, you know, more people can connect to. But that is like my personal approach to it.
Yeah, no, it's great. And I have to say, when I first got into it, it was through a friend of mine who started talking to me about it. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And when I saw the body graph, I was like, what? Like all these numbers and like shapes and gaits. And I was like, wow, like it was kind of mind blowing. And at the beginning, I must admit, I was like, researching all the time and like Googling. And then I got to the point where I was like, wow, I'm really quite confused now. So, you know, what you said about just following a few accounts with people that resonate with you and that are keeping it simple, I think is really important, because I know in my experience, I was so like, oh, I want to know more about this. Then I was like, wow. And like some language that some people use didn't resonate with me, others did. So it was just like, finding the people that help me to understand it in a simple and not so complex way, because it can be quite overwhelming when you first start, can't it? It's just like, oh, I'm a generator, and so you look at everything generator, but you're not taking into account all the other things, right?
Yeah. And also, like, you know, what I think is so interesting in human design and how it differentiates from astrology or other like esoteric practices or self-help tools that there is out there, is that actually, even though the design looks very complicated, and that's like obviously to a reader's plus, it's like, oh, you get your free chart, but you won't understand anything unless you like really get into it.
Yes.
But But yeah, I think you learn about something that is giving you a strategy. So it's something that you can actually implement in your life. It's not this thing that's like, oh, this is this and this is this, and you're like, oh yeah, this kind of resonates, or I can identify with that. But it actually gives you a tool that helps you implement and change something in your life. So you can be actively engaging in energetic aligning yourself energetically. And that is what really helped me, what made the biggest change, because there is so much information nowadays that people are hiding behind like learning, So we have like the body graph, but then like the body graph will tell you who you came to be, the karma you've come to correct, your personality, the role you should be living out, your gifts, your talents, the places where you're like more prone to losing your path, the places where you're super strong. There's like endless information. But then on top of that, there's like a deeper layer of the graph that allows you to understand how to best digest life and food if you have like digestive issues, the best environment for you, the strong sense you should rely on, the best environment for you to thrive in. So it's like such a deep, and every gate you can go so deep. Like there's so much information. And I think that's great. But again, what I am most just like supportive of is trying to guide people and like understand that it's not really about learning. But if you want to see this radical change that can happen in your life, it's about implementing, living it out, and really like building that trust muscle that this strategy is meant for you. And that the more you implement the strategy, the more result you will see, the more you're able to trust. So it's like the chicken and the egg.
Yeah.
But you have to start at some point, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So
this is like my focus.
Okay, so when someone sees their, body chart for the first time, what is the first thing you say to people then? Like, what's the first thing we should be doing when we start human design?
I think the most important thing, and not only I think, but the person who like downloaded this information into our reality, he always said, his name is Raoul Rahu. This is where I lose people. So he says that the most important thing is to understand your energy type. So this is the thing that you will find also most ready available information out there. But again, it is not only about understanding, but how I can actually live it out, right? So there's these little nuances. Let's say for a generator like you, the strategy to live out your design correctly, or to live out your energy type correctly and be collaborating with the universe to your greater benefit, is to respond to life. But then there's this nuance. I'm a projector, which is an energy type that doesn't have consistent energy. It means that I'm only supposed to work 4 hours a day. For anybody who's resonating with that, you're welcome. But for example, I have a strategy that's called waiting for the invitation. So many times generators and projectors can get confused. Do I have to wait now? What does it mean to respond? What does waiting for an invitation mean? So there's all these nuances that can be very complicated to understand how to actually, make that change in your life and be practical about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when I first heard that I had to, I wasn't allowed to initiate because that's not my, I was like, what do you mean? Like, that was really hard for me. I was like, what do you mean? They were like, no, it's not going to work. And I was like, because that's all I've done all my life, I think, is initiate. And so for me, it was really interesting.
Yeah, but this is where like it gets interesting, right? Because initiating is like the manifestor's energy type, which is only 7%. It's like the strongest energy. It's very authoritarian. It has like a closed aura. Like it used to be the kings and the conquerors of the world that have this energy, or people who like create movements. And all this like, night, just do it, #girlboss, all this like very masculine energy is this manifestor energy, which is here to initiate, do the cold calls, and take like the first steps and really be in a position of leadership. As the generator, because you work differently, because you work with an aura that like is open and is attracting, it's a very feminine energy. When you do the things that you love, your energy, your sacral energy center, which stands for like lust and creativity, gets turned on. So there's this motor that starts circulating through your body, allowing this aura to really like become like a hurricane that's like pulling things into you constantly. So this idea that you're not allowed to initiate is also not 100% correct, because you're really here to react to life. The second you see something you like, you can go towards that. When you see a person you like, you will feel pulled towards that person. When you see an image, a food, a piece of clothing, whatever it is, your body's pulling yourself towards that. So what it means is that you shouldn't use your mind to be like, oh, this logically makes sense, right? So let's say this podcast, right? So you see somebody who has 100,000 followers on Instagram, and you're like, oh, my mind says this would make sense to have this person on the podcast because it will help grow my podcast audience, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But maybe you don't like that person, or you don't resonate with that person's energy or how they're sharing what their knowledge is or whatever. So whatever, these are the things, right? So we're like, oh, I'm going to be friends with this person because they can help me out. But maybe you're not vibing with that person. So that person is not right for you, even though your mind says, oh, I should do that. Or with jobs, jobs is a typical one. Like, oh, I should take the safe job because, I have health insurance and it's this amount of vacation time. But really your soul desires to be like an entrepreneur and have your own hours and just dream big.
Yeah.
Right. So these are the small differences. And then we get into all the other things like emotional authority and all these, it gets a little complex. I don't also want to be like, oh, this is very complicated. It has its, things, but I think it's in the end, it's also called the human design experiment. Right. So my MO really is a lot of us who come to human design are curious and understanding ourselves better. Maybe we've been in therapy. Maybe we're doing inner child work. Maybe we're doing neuro reprogramming. Maybe we're doing EMDR. Maybe we're doing pain therapy. A lot of these things can be very heavy and very distressing. So I want people to have fun with human design. Go out, play, experiment. What happens when you follow your strategy? What happens when you make a decision according to how you're meant to take decisions? What happens when you don't? Because you will feel like shit very probably.
Yes, so I know that one.
Exactly. Yeah, me too. And this is how we learn. We're like, now I remember why I shouldn't do that. It feels like this. So this is really the important thing for me is that you have fun with human design, that it's not this thing oh, now I have all these gifts and I'm not using them, or where should I start? It's so much information. No, just go out, have fun, play around, see what happens, and just start understanding what this energetic game is that we can tap into.
Right. Yeah, I love that. It's true. It is an experiment. And I think often as humans, we take things so seriously sometimes. Oh, no, this is very much rigid in this way. And it's actually, once you start having fun, magic happens, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing about human design is please stop thinking that your life needs to be this hard, tears and sweat kind of lifestyle, and understand that the things that you love, the weird little things that you're ashamed to tell anybody about, the unique things that you're great at doing, that you could be doing in your sleep, that you get super excited about, this unique composition of things that make you are the ones that you're supposed to pursue. And all this other stuff that you're not enjoying because you're not meant to be doing them. Right. I was horrible.
Simple.
It's crazy. I was so bad at math. I've always been creative. I quit school when I was 16. I was numbers was just not my thing. And I don't know how many years and how many hours of my life I spent doing mathematics after school. I had a teacher, I don't know what you call this, but so I had somebody helping me out to learn better. If all that energy that I put into being mediocre in something I've never used, I'm still not interested in, and it doesn't make any sense to me, I would have invested that in doing something I love. Who knows what my creativity would have achieved, right?
Yeah.
And also, there's somebody who's gonna love that. I saw somebody in this Ukraine situation was created some kind of system of tracking oligarchs' private jets. Which for me, exactly. For me, sounds what? Who? How? Who had even? But it sounds like somebody who's interested in numbers and location and all the stuff that I have zero idea about. And I'm look what a great tool that this is helping. Whatever, understanding certain things that are happening in our world. If this person would have been oh no, you have to be into fashion and have an Instagram account because you have to look a certain way, they're totally failing their mission. So sometimes we don't even understand how powerful our gifts are or what purpose our gifts have, because for us, they're super easy, or maybe we don't appreciate them, or we grew up in a situation where our caretakers rejected who we are authentically. So this conditioning starts building upon us. And I always say that we have like this kind of slime on our aura that doesn't allow our soul to communicate with the universe the things that are meant for us. So through this process of human design, through this process of really digging up all those parts that have been too painful to accept about ourselves, we're able to integrate the wholeness of our soul, take off that slime from our aura, and really allow our soul to communicate and attract the things that are meant for us in this lifetime.
I love that, Maike. It's like, it's incredible how we think we should do something. And it's also incredible how we think that when something comes to us easy, that it's like, oh, well, I'm not really doing anything. You know, like when something is easy, it's almost like, oh, this can't be right because it's not hard, you know, or should I be earning money for this because like, how am I good at this? You know, it's like we question when things come easy to us.
Yeah, for me, it is like that. I'm like, it's incredible that I get to make money doing the thing that I love most, which is understanding people and like showing people how valuable they are. Like I've been doing this since I was a teenager, like from my memory.
Right.
So it is really incredible to understand that that's exactly what should be happening. We should not be doing things we don't want to do. And we grow up with this like very strict thing, like, oh no, like you always have to do the things that you don't want to do. No, actually you can delegate, you know, if you don't like doing your taxes, you know, like I had a client, she was like, oh, actually I'm unemployed. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do, but I hate cleaning my house. So the little money that I have, I'm investing in somebody who's cooking for me and doing my house chores because it makes me miserable. And I'm like, incredible, you know, like instead of, you know, maybe for somebody it's going out to have dinner once, whatever. So for her, that was like a non-negotiable. And that's very interesting. And even in like a different scale, like one of my clients is a generator, and she decided to leave her corporate job where she was a graphic designer because she wanted to do her own stuff. She loved like designing Christmas cards and like wrapping paper. And it was very fascinating because she was incredibly magnetic. She was like, I have too much job. It's too much work. I'm making too much. Like, it's just everything is too much. And what was so fascinating because of that, she's a generator. So what is important for generators is that you never stop doing and creating and actually building the things that you love. And what society tells us, or the way that, you know, we're supposed to like build a business is like, oh, you start doing it. And once you get successful, you pay other people to do what you actually love doing. So you manage the rest. But this is not what you love doing. So her struggle was like, you know, so she had a partner who was a manifestor, and a manifestor is like this leadership thing. It's like actually they're meant to have people employed and do their work, but it doesn't work for her. So she suddenly had like 10 employees, was absolutely miserable because she wasn't doing what she wanted to do with her hands, which is the actual designing process, and was just overlooking and managing all these people. And she's like, no, I'm not happy. This is not what I want to do. So she let go of all of that, and she became even more successful and even like, you know, just like growing and more successful and happier.
Yeah.
Because she was actually doing what she wanted to do and saying no to these like musts. Oh no, you have to grow in this certain way, or your business has to look this way. It's just something that is not really true if we're looking for our own happiness and authenticity.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true. And I think it's really like tapping into that joy of what brings us joy and like lifts us up.
100%.
Yeah. I love that. So, Maike, I've seen a lot on Instagram you talking about the new paradigm in 2027. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yes. My favorite subject. Okay. Sorry. So the new paradigm in human design is a new life cycle that will start in 2027. So what this means is that in the last 2,000 years, we've been influenced by a certain frequency that is called the tribal stream energy. So this means that we have this tribal thought that until now, we've really been influenced by this idea of we have to get together to make our tribe survive. And this is like the very typical story that, you know, American dreams are made of. immigrant parents who have like a doctorate or like, study medicine, leave all their credentials behind to become a cab driver so that the children have a better life in America. This idea of like, I have to sacrifice, you might see this in your own parents, you might see this in your grandparents, this idea of like, I have to sacrifice my dreams, who I am and what I want for the next generation. And this is also because 2,000 years ago, we were still in the Neanderthal, and this was all survival and instinct. So we needed these 2,000 years where we've built institutions, where we built structure, where we built these outside authorities like religion, like the law system, like the school system. All these things are like outside authorities that have been telling us for 2,000 years what is right and what is wrong, right?
Wow.
But what is it's crazy. But what is happening is that now we're already starting to notice this new frequency that will happen in this new paradigm shift in 2027, where we enter into this new stream, which is all about individuality. So from the human design perspective, we are saying that from 2027 on, but we're already noticing, and I think that's why human design and all these self-help tools are having there's such an interest for them. We're already noticing that we're more and more involved in understanding, who am I? Who do I come to be? What is my purpose? What is my pattern? What are my trauma? Who are you? What are your trauma? What are your patterns? How are you willing to express yourself? So this is what we will see will be happening in the new paradigm. And all these structures that we've built so far of consistency, of discipline, they are starting to crumble. And we can see this, for example, in human design, we also have, like we were talking about these outer authorities, we have the inner authority. So the inner authority is the tool that human design gives you to understand how you should best make decisions. And with each right decision, you will take a step into the path of your purpose, right? So what we've been seeing with this like controversy of the vaccine, that the government is telling you, no, this is right and this is wrong for you. And many people are saying, oh no, but wait, this does not feel right for me or does feel right for me. And this has created, tension, right? Exactly, friction. Yeah. So what I think is like crazy to think about is that, I have no idea, whatever, like hundreds of years ago, religion was telling us, you should not kill. You should not lie. You should not steal, as if we all don't have like an inbuilt system as humans, knowing that killing, stealing, and lying doesn't feel good. You know what I mean? So I'm not sure if this is because our consciousness back then wasn't as developed, or we didn't have that connection to our own self to understand that somebody from outside actually had to explain this to us, or what. But I think it's very fascinating to see how this is like now somebody tells me, oh, you should not kill. I'm like, oh, really? I didn't know. I didn't think about, like, it's like crazy to imagine that was something somebody had to tell us.
Right.
So this is like the new paradigm shift is going to, and we're already seeing it. It's going to totally disrupt the way that we interact with money, banks, and the whole like monetary system that we built up. We're already seeing what's happening with NFTs, with Bitcoin. I mean, I'm zero expert at it. I'm fascinated, but I'm zero expertise. But I think it's like just an interesting thing that's popping up. The way that we work has nothing to do with the way that we worked 2 years ago. This whole idea of like not needing to go into an office. Everybody's like wanting to start their own business. The possibilities that there is out there for like content creators, for young people who have like business on YouTube and on TikTok and on this and on that. And it sounds like surreal for other generations, but for theirs, it's an actual reality,
Yeah, absolutely.
The way that we interact, the way that we create or how our friendships are built, even our relationships are going to be incredibly influenced, because what was holding our relationships, our romantic relationships together, was this desire to co-create together, to leave something behind for the tribe, right? To be part of the tribe, to like contribute to like, children or whatever it is, to make this tribe stronger. But now that we're moving into this individualistic, we will also see how there will be a decrease in the desire to build a family and like the, parameters that we've known until now. So there's a lot of fascinating stuff happening. And I feel like we're noticing a deep change already, but 2027, it's like when it's gonna like all just like go wild. Yes.
It's such a fascinating topic. I could talk to you about this for hours because I'm just so fascinated by it. Like I read things and like I read your posts and it just always blows my mind. I'm like, oh yeah, oh wow. Like you know, if anyone listening out there doesn't have any idea about human design, well, now you have more of an idea. But honestly, follow Mikey because she's absolutely fabulous. The way, the way you display everything. Yeah, but for me, it resonates with me because it's not also like, you know how a lot of spiritual things are sometimes turned into this kind of hippie woo-woo. You're really practical.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. And it's funny that you say that because, like, I don't know, a couple of months ago, I have this friend and she has such a much stronger design than me. And every time she tells me something, even though I know it's completely against my design, even though it's totally wrong for me, I end up listening to her. And now I'm like, stop telling me anything because I can't listen to the stuff you're telling me. And it's never correct for me, you know? And she has her point and I see her point, but it's not correct for me, but I end up doing it anyways. So I have not. I totally lost my train of thought now with this idea.
I was talking about how wonderful your Instagram is, and
exactly. Sorry. So she was telling me, oh, I see all these, human design accounts that are like doing better than yours, and they're like super, like like talking about leaves and like magic stuff, and like I have no idea what they were talking about. Like very, like very spiritual and like very, in the air. And then I was like, oh, maybe I have to go more that route, blah, blah, blah.
No,
like, no, actually, no, exactly. It's actually, no, exactly. Because this is the thing. I feel like spirituality is for everybody. And this idea that it's just for this niche of people who are like, like granola vibe, like all power to everyone. I don't want to judge anyone.
Yes, of course.
But I think like this is the thing. We need to make spirituality something that is practical, that is easy to understand because it's something for all of us. It's just like part of our existence. It's not like this weird thing. And I think it's also because like I grew up with a lot of shadow around spirituality. My mom's a psychotherapist and my dad is like a very like, businessman. So there was a lot of shame of all things that were like psychological and spiritual. They were not really allowed in my household. They were very taboo. And I think that's why it took me such a long time to like just open and like step out of the spiritual closet and be like, hi, I love human design, you know? And that's why I think I bring like this groundedness to it, because for me, it's about being practical. It's about, things easy to understand and accessible to everybody. It's not like this weird spiritual thing. No.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love it because years and years ago, I've always worked in fashion and I'm a stylist and I work in sustainable fashion, but I'm also a yoga and meditation teacher. And for a while I had a bit of conflict of like, how can I be a yogi but also love fashion? Then I was like, no, actually, this is part of who I am and I'm just going to own it. And, like, why can't you still be a yogi or spirit? We're all spiritual beings.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
Like you were saying, what we love is for a reason. We've come here to share whatever that is. And it's like, I think when we really can like take off any of these taboos and like not be so in a box and realize that, we are all spiritual beings, and however way we present ourselves, if that feels good to us, then we're going to attract the right people into our lives. So that's why I love your content, because it has this edginess to it that I really resonate with.
I think I also come out of fashion. So I was like working in fashion for so many years. And it's interesting because I feel that there's so many people that are moving from fashion and taking like a more spiritual path. And I think it has also to do with this concept of like seeing trends and understanding what's coming. So I think it's a natural evolution that we're going through. There's spirituality everywhere. Like, everybody's like becoming spiritual. Everybody has like, a photo dump roll on their Instagram where like there's some like, spiritual memes or whatever. Like we're all understanding something. Even if we don't, it's like, because it's like a trend, it's still like seeping into people's consciousness, which I think is like the interesting thing. And I don't think it's something that is like a trend that's going to go. It's like something that's staying and growing and just will be used in a much more, just like casual matter, right? It's not gonna be like, oh, she's got a crystal in her house. It's like, oh yeah, like, oh, I didn't even know that, like, yeah, I believe so. I really believe so. It's like, oh, it's just like a decor thing.
Yeah. For me, it's like spirituality is very much, it's it already is there. We've just come so disconnected from ourselves, and I think, as like you were saying, we're questioning ourselves more, like, who am I? What have I come here to do? Like, what do I want to do? What brings me joy? And so the more we start to take off this slime, as you were saying, it's like the more we're connecting to who we really are, which is our spirit, right? And so I feel like it's already in there. It's just we don't have to look for it anywhere. It's actually inside of us.
Yeah. And that's why I think human design is so interesting, because I'm not going to tell you anything you don't really already feel on a certain level. Like, it's not my assessment of who you should be. It is not your own interpretation of how you see yourself. It is really like, this is the roadmap to who you came to be energetically. And when you start living this out, you will notice that there's just so much more energy, life force, and creative juices flowing. You're going to be just like feeling more connected to who you are, and you will just notice that your life will be better exponentially. Like, I cannot really say that my life has changed so dramatic. I mean, actually, I can't say. I feel like my life has changed dramatically, but mostly like I still live in the same place. I bring my daughter to school every day. Like, my life hasn't changed like that immensely, but the way that I perceive my life has made such an enormous like shift. And like, human design really saved me from myself, and from this like constructed idea that I thought that who I had to be, and this pressure of who I thought I had to be. Like, I had 2 burnouts before the age of 30. I have an autoimmune disease. Like, I was going through like very toxic behaviors to be able to keep up with what I thought society was demanding of me, and my authenticity just not being able to cope with that. So for me, it was like, literally, I feel like it was a lifesaver. Like, I have no idea how sick I could have gotten, or like how down the spiral I would have fallen if I hadn't realized, like, actually, who you are is okay. You can stop forcing the machine. Like, you can just take a breath. It's crazy.
Just be you. Yeah.
And it sounds beautiful. So easy, but it's so complicated. Like, oh, just be you. Yeah, but who am I? Like, what does that mean? Like, it's so hard. It's so hard.
Yeah. Oh, Maiki, thank you so much. It's been a wonderful talking to you and having you on the show. If you could just say a few more words of wisdom to our listeners, what would that be?
A few more words of wisdom. Wow, now I feel a lot of pressure.
Whatever comes to you.
I think the thing that I want everybody just to remember is that you are here for a purpose, and you can only fulfill that purpose when you show up and accept and share the unique gifts and talents that you have. Because if that was not like that, you would be replaceable. So every time you look at somebody else's path to success, you look at somebody else's style, you look at the way somebody else's looks, or what your interpretation of what their life could be, always remember that your own path has its own magic, and that by owning who you are, you will be able to really step into that and live out just your highest potential and contribute to just like the biggest consciousness and just a wonderful, beautiful life.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. So before
Thank you so much,
we end our call, just tell our listeners where they can find you, as they know you're on Instagram.
Yes. Okay. So you can find me on Instagram at Maike Gabriella with 1 L. You can find my new super cool website that I'm very proud about on www.maikegabriella.com. And we have like loads of super cool new features. So if you haven't looked at your human design chart yet, I would recommend that you go to my website. There's, you can get into my HD chart or HD chart or whatever. You will find a link that will bring you into our beautiful human design chart, and it's very complete. You will find more information on this chart than in most other places. And then if you like, now we have a free membership. So you can access like podcasts, interviews, articles, all these things. So if you really want to fall down a rabbit hole with me, just go to my website, find all the information. Find all the information. There's tons and tons of stuff there. And now I am really like getting into TikTok. So on TikTok, I'm called Align Your Vibe. Yeah. No, you gotta be on TikTok. Everybody, you gotta be.
Oh God, it's too much for me.
Yeah, I get it. Actually, the thing is, I love TikTok. Like people are like talking to me and I'm like, oh, I learned from TikTok. Oh, this TikTok conversation. Like I'm obsessed with TikTok.
Wow.
But I think it's for me. Yeah. I love it. For me, it's like fascinating, but I'm fascinated by human behavior.
Yes.
So there's just like, you know, the difference between Instagram, like people feel they don't have the permission to just be themselves because it's very curated. And on TikTok, you see everything, everyone, anything. And I love it. Like I live for that.
Cool.
So you can find on TikTok at Align Your Vibe. Yeah, exactly. You can really see the authenticity of different people. What else do I have? I think that's enough, right? Follow me on Instagram, check my website. If you want, join me on TikTok because it's just fun. But yeah, and amazing. I'm always open for anybody. There's so much value, free value on my Instagram. I like IGTV lives and like, you know, so much information. And you can always DM me with a question and I'll always try to answer everybody.
Amazing, Maiki. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. To all our listeners, please follow Maiki. You're going to love her Instagram and her new website's beautiful. Maybe I'll go on TikTok now. You've inspired me. I might go and have a look.
Yeah, go have a look. You should.
Thank you, Maiki.
Thank you, Lou. Thank you so much.
Lots of love. Day. You too. Ciao.
Bye.
I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and if you did, please subscribe to the Lou Stokes podcast. Rate and review in the Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you're tuning in from. I'd be so grateful. Also, check out the show notes to learn more about my guest and learn more about me on my website, www.loustokes.com. Until next time, be inspired, take action, and become your own icon.